It happened in front of dozens of people, yet no one moved. A little homeless girl stood beside a trash bin outside a crowded neighborhood cafe, staring at a half-eaten sandwich resting on a paper plate. Her tiny hands trembled as hunger defeated pride. Looking toward a tired single father who had just stood up from his table, she whispered 6 heartbreaking words that silenced the afternoon around them. "Can I eat what you didn't finish?" The father froze. The customers looked away. But within the next few hours, one simple act of kindness would uncover a truth that would transform not only 2 broken lives, but an entire community forever. If you believe kindness still matters, that forgiveness is stronger than anger, and that hope and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family. The father was named Preston Hale, a 38-year-old mechanic whose hands carried permanent grease stains no amount of soap could erase. Life had never been generous to him. For years earlier, his wife had died after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his 8-year-old son, Callan, alone. Every sunrise meant another race against unpaid bills, school schedules, overtime shifts, and endless worry about whether he was giving his son the childhood he deserved. Preston rarely bought himself anything nice. That afternoon sandwich and soup were a rare reward after working 12 straight days without a break. The little girl standing beside the trash bin couldn't have been older than 9. Her tangled blonde hair hung over frightened blue eyes that looked much older than her age. Her oversized sweater had once been purple but had faded into a dull gray from weather and wear. Her shoes barely stayed together, and every few moments she glanced around nervously, as if expecting someone to chase her away. Instead of handing her the leftovers, Preston quietly sat back down. He called the waitress over and ordered another full meal. The girl immediately stepped backward, believing she had done something wrong. Shame filled her face before a single word was spoken. Preston gently slid the fresh plate toward the empty chair. He simply nodded. The girl hesitated so long that the warm food almost stopped steaming. Finally she sat down carefully, as though afraid the chair belonged to someone more important. She whispered her name, Marin. She didn't eat quickly, she ate carefully. Every bite was tiny, slow, grateful. People who had truly known hunger didn't rush. They never knew when another meal would come. Callan watched silently from across the table. Instead of complaining that his father had spent money they didn't have, he quietly pushed his untouched apple across to Marin. She looked at the fruit as though someone had handed her treasure. For the first time in months, she smiled. It lasted only a few seconds, but it changed something inside Preston. When lunch ended, Preston expected the girl to disappear into the busy sidewalks like so many forgotten children did every day. Instead she thanked him with remarkable politeness before slowly walking toward a nearby public park. Something didn't feel right. He noticed she wasn't heading toward a family, she wasn't meeting friends, she wasn't going home. She simply wandered beneath the afternoon sun until she reached a weathered bench beneath a large oak tree. Hidden beneath it was an old backpack and a thin blanket. That was home. Preston's heart sank. Over the next several days, he found excuses to pass through the park during lunch. Every afternoon Marin sat on the same bench reading torn library books she had found in donation boxes. She never begged. She never stole. She simply existed quietly, almost invisible to the busy world passing around her. Eventually Preston learned her story. After losing both parents in a highway accident 2 years earlier, she had bounced between distant relatives and temporary shelters. Each placement lasted only weeks before another move followed. Finally one careless guardian abandoned her completely. Fearful of returning to a system where she felt unwanted, Marin simply disappeared. No one had truly looked for her. No one except now. Preston contacted local social workers, expecting bureaucracy and delay. Instead he discovered something even more heartbreaking. Without proper identification and updated records, Marin had slipped through administrative cracks. Everyone assumed someone else was helping her. No one was. Preston couldn't sleep that afternoon. He looked across his small kitchen as Callan completed homework at the table. His son looked up and quietly asked if the little girl had eaten today. Preston nodded. Callan smiled. Then he asked the question that would change everything. If Mom were here, wouldn't she bring her home? Those words echoed inside Preston all afternoon that he wasn't wealthy, his house barely fit 2 people, his savings were almost gone, but compassion had never depended on a bank account. The following weeks became a whirlwind of paperwork, interviews, background checks, inspections, and countless meetings. Preston never imagined how difficult it could be simply to offer a child's safety. Many people warned him against becoming involved. Some insisted life was already hard enough, others questioned whether a single father should take responsibility for another child, but every obstacle only reminded Preston why so many children remained alone. Someone always found reasons not to help. He decided to become someone who did. While the legal process slowly unfolded, Maren was placed in a caring temporary foster home nearby instead of returning to crowded emergency shelters. Preston and Callan visited every weekend. They brought books, sandwiches, puzzles, and simple afternoons filled with laughter that Maren had almost forgotten children were allowed to have. Her walls slowly came down. She confessed that the cafe lunch had been her first fresh meal in almost 3 days. She admitted she often pretended not to be hungry because people became uncomfortable when children asked for food. She had learned that invisible children survived longer. Those words haunted everyone who heard them. Months later, after endless evaluations confirmed Preston's commitment and stability, something remarkable happened. The adoption was approved. The courtroom wasn't filled with expensive suits or television cameras, only ordinary people stood inside: the social worker who never gave up, the waitress who remembered the little girl, the cafe owner. A few mechanics from Preston's shop. Callan squeezed Maren's hand so tightly that neither noticed tears rolling down their faces. When the judge declared them a family, the room erupted into applause. Maren didn't cry immediately. Instead she stared at the papers. She traced her new last name with one finger, then she looked at Preston. For the first time since losing her parents, she called someone Dad. There wasn't a dry eye anywhere. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Money remained tight. The roof leaked every spring. The old pickup broke down twice that year. Preston still worked long hours, but the house sounded different now. It held laughter, birthday candles, homework arguments, board games, family dinners. Hope Point. One afternoon nearly a year later, Preston returned to the same cafe where everything had begun. This time 3 meals sat on the table. After eating, Maren noticed another little boy standing nervously beside the trash bin. His clothes were dirty, his eyes carried the same silent hunger she once knew. Without hesitation she picked up her untouched dessert and walked toward him. She didn't offer leftovers, she invited him to sit. Preston watched from a distance. Kindness had completed its circle. The cafe owner, who had witnessed the entire journey over the past year, felt inspired to create something new. Together with nearby businesses, churches, schools, and volunteers, they started a community meal program where anyone in need could receive a hot lunch without questions or embarrassment. Soon clothing drives followed. Reading corners appeared for children. Local doctors volunteered health checkups. Counselors offered support. What began with one hungry child asking for unfinished food grew into a movement that reminded people their greatest wealth was often their willingness to care. Reporters eventually heard the story and wanted interviews. Preston accepted only one. He didn't speak about himself. He spoke about Maren. He explained that people often imagined heroes arrived wearing uniforms or carrying fortunes. Sometimes, he said, heroes arrived wearing worn-out sweaters, carrying empty stomachs, and reminding everyone else how to become human again. His words spread across neighborhoods, schools, and workplaces. More families volunteered, more children found homes, more strangers began seeing people instead of problems. Years passed. Maren flourished in school. She discovered a passion for helping vulnerable children and dreamed of becoming a social worker so no child would ever again disappear inside forgotten paperwork. Callan grew into a compassionate young man who never walked past someone in need without offering respect. Preston often thought back to that ordinary afternoon. He realized he had believed he was rescuing one lonely child. The truth was very different. She had rescued him from believing survival alone was enough. She had restored joy to a grieving father and purpose to a tired heart. Before we reach the end of this journey, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing one act of kindness that changed your life, or one small way you hope to make someone else's day brighter. Your story may inspire someone who desperately needs hope. As the years rolled on, visitors continued asking about the framed paper hanging in Preston's modest home. It wasn't an award or a newspaper article. It was the receipt from the cafe on the afternoon he bought one extra meal. Whenever someone asked why such an ordinary receipt mattered so much, Preston simply smiled. That inexpensive lunch had become the most valuable purchase he would ever make. It reminded everyone who entered the house that life can change forever because someone chooses compassion instead of convenience, generosity instead of judgment, and love instead of indifference. That if this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the smallest act of kindness may become the beginning of someone else's greatest miracle, and sometimes the person you save ends up saving you too.